The league that can't seem to get All-Star right is trying once again with a new format, which is going to be a 4-team tournament-style format, which will begin with the 2025 All-Star Game. 2 semifinal games played up to 40 points, with the winners advancing to a finals matchup, which will go up to 25 points. That's according to ESPN. The 4 teams that would face each other in these matchups would be comprised of 3 All-Star teams of 8 players each, and the winner of the Rising Stars game, which would take part in this tournament. So we're doing it again, Rachel, where, the disaster that is NBA All-Star Weekend is getting a facelift once again. So I'll start with this question. Is this going to work? Is this something that you think is going to engage players, which is the most important thing here, getting these players to be engaged more than the formats the league has tried in the past?
Look, I never want to say just a flat out no, because sometimes things work that you don't expect. I mean, the Elon ending for the All-Star game, that actually worked for a couple years in a way we didn't think it would. And yet then nobody was like, yeah, we're actually not that interested. So that fell apart. There were people who were vocal critics of the play-in and thinking that wouldn't work. And guess what? That's worked great. So I never want to say no, but I would not have come up with this solution. Maybe I'll put it that way. I don't understand playing a Rising Stars team against literal all-stars, the NBA's actual best players. If you're looking to make the games more competitive, I wouldn't go that direction. That just doesn't seem on paper to feel like, oh yeah, that's going to solve our competitiveness problem. And I just think the All-Star game issues are broader and wider than the game itself. I mean, first of all, you and I have covered the league for so long. All-Star used to be the most amazing weekend. I mean, it was incredible to see all these guys together, and they played their asses off. And we have all those games. I mean, people have brought up all these moments as compared to the current All-Star situation. So you've seen them a bunch. But, whether it's MJ going hard at so-and-so, whether it's Dwayne Wade breaking Kobe's nose in an All-Star game. I mean, this was just a very different feel. And it was always my favorite weekend of the year, frankly, because in the finals, yeah, the stakes are obviously much higher, but you're only dealing with 2 teams. When you are at the All-Star game, the way it used to be, it was a phenomenal experience where you really felt like you were in surround sound with these stars who were just megawatt. And it was so much fun. So I'm mourning maybe more than others that we don't have a good product here. And I do think it is a broader problem, because by the time these guys get to the game itself, they've been there for 3 or 4 days. They have a ton of sponsorship obligations because the league sets that weekend up. It's sort of its main sponsorship push. Every major NBA sponsor is there. If you've signed any sort of contract with them, to endorse and to get money from these shoe companies and everything else, you have to put in appearances. There's parties guys feel like they have to go to that are sponsored by other places like Fanatics or DraftKings or that kind of thing. And by the time they get to the game, it's an afterthought. And it made it feel even more of an afterthought by the fact that the stands are stocked with people who are corporate ticket holders who aren't that invested in the game. I was sitting with someone in a box last year who is a major NBA sponsor, and the president of that organization left at halftime to go have dinner. And he was meeting some important people out for dinner. It didn't seem like, oh, gee, he was just leaving to leave, like he was bored, but he had made plans to leave in the middle of the game, which again, the messaging to those guys isn't that the game is the most important part. So I just think that the NBA inadvertently got itself in a situation where they have been telling players this isn't important. And then, of course, the players are also responsible. But if you message players, I mean, look, I'm a mom. I've got 2 kids. If you message your kids something isn't important, trust me, they're going to treat it that way. And adults are no different. And these are men who have, a million responsibilities and things going on. And if someone says, not that important, I don't know if we can expect them to be the ones to say, no, this is important.
Underdog is the place to play if you're a sports fan looking to win money while watching sports. With over 5 million happy players and $2 billion won, Underdog makes it fun and easy to cash in on all your favorite athlete performances. Compete against other players just by selecting higher or lower on 2 or more player stats, and you could win up to 1,000 times your money. So turn every touchdown into a win with Underdog. Underdog is the best place to cash in on all your takes this football season. Which players are going off, which ones are ice cold. Make your picks in just a few taps and turn your sports opinions into real money. You could win up to 1,000 times your money just by choosing higher or lower on player stats like points, blocks, steals, and much more. Underdog is the best place to play Pick'em, so sign up and deposit now using promo code OPENFLOOR to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. I've had a lot of fun using Underdog to go all in on Anthony Davis, who is having a monster season on both ends of the floor, Tyrese Maxey, who has stepped into a huge role in Philadelphia, and the Boston Celtics, who continue to put up win after win. Even the Cleveland Cavaliers, Darius Garland, a 45% three-point shooter, have had a lot of success and a lot of fun playing with Underdog. So download the app today and use code OPENFLOOR to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. That's OPENFLOOR to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Select higher or lower on your favorite players and cash in on Underdog. Must be 18 or over, 19 or over in Alabama or Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in the state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply, void in Colorado. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org in Arizona, 1-800-NEXT-STEP, 1-800-639-8783, or text NEXT STEP to 53342 in New York. Call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. Nothing can be worse than the last All-Star game. Like that
I don't think that's true.
Really?
You're putting an NBA All-Star team against the rising stars.
Well, hear me out on this one. Like, I thought last year's was the worst up until this point. I thought that was really bad. It was the record number of points. It wasn't competitive for 1 single second. Nobody gave a damn during that All-Star game. I can see a scenario where, 19 and 20-year-olds that are playing for the Rising Stars team, like, Alex Sarr and Zach Ricochet and Zach Edey, if they wind up winning their version of the game, bringing out some competitiveness, like playing harder than NBA All-Stars will, which alone would be,
I can see
like, by itself would be an upgrade over what we usually get. But I don't see it lasting for the totality of however long the game ultimately lasts. Yeah. The reality is that nothing can save the All-Star game. There's nothing because, I've heard people suggest like financial incentive, right? Like, and for some guys, that may matter. I've seen people point out, be like, well, you see these NBA Cup games, these guys that are playing, they want that $500,000 bonus. Maybe you give $500,000 to all the All-Star games. Well, two problems with that. Number one, I'm of the belief that players that are trying to get to the NBA Cup semis and finals care a lot more about a weekend in Vegas than they care about the $500,000. I'm sorry, it sounds awful to say, but $500,000 to Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown and Kevin Durant and LeBron James, that doesn't move the needle for these guys because they're making $300 million guaranteed in contracts plus whatever else they're getting in endorsements off the floor. Giving them an extra $500,000 to play hard in an All-Star game is not enough incentive. There's nothing, and we're beyond the point of like trying to incorporate regular season outcomes into the All-Star game, giving home court advantage to the All-Star. That's not going to work either. There's nothing the league can do. They've tried USA versus the world. They've tried mixing up Eastern and Western Conference. Now they're trying this. It's going to be the exact same thing. They have to accept, Rachel, that, look, it's always going to be highly rated. You know this. You've seen the numbers. Like, the numbers are still better than any regular season game by 3 multiple. Like, it's still a really big number, but it's never going to be 20 million viewers. And it's never going to look like the 1990s All-Star games where John Stockton is setting a screen on Patrick Ewing, like in the paint, like he'd do in the NBA Finals. So that's just the reality of this. Like, I see this new thing. I'm like, oh, okay, it's going to take me a little while to wrap my head around exactly what it is and exactly how it's going to work. But when I do, it's not going to change the ultimate opinion that nothing is going to change any of this. All-Star games are what they are, and they're going to be that way forever.
You're so jaded. Come on, man. Keep at it. We're going to keep fighting. Look.
Let me ask you this. What is, like, if Adam Silver gave you a call and said, Rachel, fix All-Star Weekend for us, what would your answer be?
Well, look, USA versus the world, the last time it happened was a while ago, before we had this level of international talent. I mean, what, the last five? I'm trying to calculate in my head. MVPs have been given to international players. It might even be six. I'd have to go back and look, but around there. I mean, we just the top draft picks have been international players. It is a different era than it was the last time they tried that. And I do think that there would be some pride there on both sides that might kick in. So just as a starter, as an appetizer to let's see if this works, I would have tried that this year. I guess one of my questions is sort of how involved is the players union in structuring this, and how involved do they have to be? Because I think one of the issues is the NBA has worked in such great partnership with the players union all these years, and that's definitely benefited the league overall. It's been the right decision. You and I covered a time where the NBA and the Players Association were not on good terms, and obviously we had lockouts, we had strikes, things were bad. So this is good overall. In this case, if I was the NBA and I didn't have to run things by the Players Association and get their approval on everything, I would have a little bit more of a suck it up mentality. First of all, I wouldn't put the game as the very last thing that they have to do. I do think that that's an issue. I would change who's in the stands. The tickets for that game are not that important a source of revenue, especially if you're talking about, oh, should we give every player $500,000? Trust me, not having the lower bowl filled with sponsors, you're not losing that much money to the league's overall revenue. So give those tickets away in the city that you are holding the All-Star game. Go to the Boys and Girls Clubs, go to the courts, go to other organizations, and give those tickets away. Because there was one year of the million things they've tried, right, where they had like a corner of the lower bowl where they gave to charity, and it was like, team this, team that, we get more money if your team wins. Those kids, those people were wild and mad. And if in front of a crowd that was the entire lower bowl, or maybe the whole stadium, of people who were into the game, who were screaming at players if they, screwed up, who were like, oh, whatever. Guys, the atmosphere makes a difference. Guys get more enlivened when people are cheering and the crowd is going and all of that. And they don't want to be embarrassed in front of people who are actually paying attention to the game. So when some, guy calls out, play some defense, punk, like you hear that stuff. It matters. So I would make those kinds of changes. Those don't involve the players union. What I would do, though, is have it more of a sort of competitive format, whether there was 3-on-3 floated at one point, one-on-one tournament floated at one point. The Players Association has supposedly
King of the Court. That would have been fun. A King of the Court
right?
competition. I would have liked to have seen that.
Well, but that's the thing, is that I understand that one of the big movers in this all-star process the last 10 years has been, quote, guys don't want to get embarrassed from the slam dunk contest. Now you're seeing it even a little bit like, I don't have to do the 3-point contest. I've done that already, where people are like, I don't want to be the last guy with the balls and the rack and the whole thing. I just think not getting embarrassed is not what we look for in our, major league athletes, and that guys got to get over it, frankly. And it's bad for the game that has taken over. And whether it is, I would say every first time All-Star has to be in the slam dunk contest. Got to do it once. And that would get some of the young, exciting talent there. Victor Wembanyama in the slam dunk contest would be pretty exciting.
That would be interesting. I'm not sure how that would work, but that would be interesting to say the least.
But I mean, whether it's that or, again, 3-on-3, where guys are a little bit more out there and they have to defend, or one-on-one, I just think there are ways, schedule it earlier in the weekend, change who's in the stands, change the format enough that, like, guys could get embarrassed, because that's the thing. There's no stakes right now for them. And that's where the money talk comes in. And that's where the, oh, you should do the right thing talk comes in. You have to give competitive professional athletes stakes. And right now they don't have any by design. And I just think that's your biggest problem. And that's fixable.
Yeah.
Am I naive? Am I Pollyanna?
Yeah. No. Most of that I can get on board with. The idea of the USA versus the world thing, though, like the two guys that cared the least about the 2024 All-Star game were Nikola Jokic and Luka Doncic. And short of having this event in Slovenia, I don't think there's anything that's going to convince Luka Doncic to have a give a damn about what the All-Star game, the outcome of that is.
I don't know. If the stakes were like international basketball versus American basketball,
I don't
international
know.
players of all ilks, and we've seen it a lot over the last, year or so, they hate it that we call this like the world championship, right? There's a lot of talk
Yeah,
from even other athletes about that. I feel like the international players, at least for a year or two, would want to prove their
maybe,
point. I don't know.
maybe,
Maybe.
and certainly the talent gap has expanded for sure. It
Yeah.
would make it a little more interesting. I just after watching the 24 All Star game, like I remember Luka and just Jokic just kind of walking up and down, throwing touch passes, doing nothing remotely close to real basketball. So I don't know how it's all going to work.